So the best thing that can happen to anyone is you knowing the plans and purposes of God for your life, knowing that God has in store for you what He wants for you, and knowing that God has set down rules for your life, or rules that will guide your life. That's the best thing that can happen to anybody. Having the knowledge that, okay, this is what God wants me to do per time, per hour, per second, per year, per whatever it is. Knowing your place in God and knowing that this is what God has said concerning you, this is what God wants you to do per time, is the best thing that can happen to anyone. Is the best decisions that you would have to come into. And so on this premise, I would have to speak to you about the waiting room. The waiting room, yes, the waiting room. And when you hear about the waiting room, what comes to your mind? The waiting room is a platform where God simply wants you to trust Him, where God wants you to stay put. The waiting room can be seen as staying in the presence of God. The waiting room, it's you staying where God has placed you, trusting Him and obeying Him. Have you ever wondered why? Probably, I don't know what your situation is, or what that present thing or predicament or whatever you consider it to be, why you're going through that. Have you ever wondered why I'm in this situation of my life? Why is all this happening to me? Why am I looking for a job and have not yet gotten one? Why am I still trusting God for the fruit of the womb? I don't know what your situation is. Why don't I still have a job? I graduated with the best results. Why am I still stressed? Why am I still trusting God to get that business done? Why is things working out for me the way they are? It's happening for this person, it's happening for this other person, and it's not happening for me that way, because you are in the waiting room. I don't know what situation you're faced with, I don't know what conditions you're in, but trust me, you are in a waiting room. What do you do in the waiting room? You trust and you obey. God's dealings for us individually is different. If we can get these realities right, then we'll stop pursuing a lot of things that we are pursuing. Maybe God simply don't want you to get married. Yes. Maybe God simply don't want you to get that job. Yes. Maybe what God wants for you is just to stay in a local church and serve as an usher till the coming of the Lord. Yes, as difficult as it sounds, the best place you can be is in the presence of God. And the waiting room is the presence of God, where you just stay trusting and obeying. That is it. It doesn't have to make sense to nobody. It doesn't have to make sense to your parents. It doesn't have to make sense to nobody. It doesn't have to make sense to your friends. It looks as if everyone is going ahead of you, and it seems that you are downlined, downsided. Do you know what I'm talking about? It doesn't have to make sense. You are in the waiting room. We have to spill. A lot of errors, a lot of vices has come to play in the minds of people to think that what happens for this person should happen